What if I told you that the BBC crowned a Brazilian singer as the best vocalist of the entire millennium in her country, and you've probably never heard of her? Brazil has produced some of the most powerful female voices in music history. While the world knows Beyoncé and Adele, there are Brazilian divas whose talent is so extraordinary that they've broken barriers, defied dictatorship, and changed the music history forever. These 5 women didn't just sing, they revolutionized Brazilian culture and opened doors that seemed impossible to open. With unique styles, vocal power, and enormous stage presence, they won over the ears and hearts of the people. Getting to know these singers can change the way you see Brazilian music. And if you are a musician, this is a must stop. Creating a list like this is not an easy task, especially when we think about a country so culturally rich. Several names could be on this list, but the selection I chose to present to you represents a significant part of my country's culture. I'm Alex, a Brazilian guitarist and composer. The first singer I'm going to present was a pioneer in denouncing the conditions of black women in Brazil. I'm talking about Elza Soares. Elza was voted the best singer of the millennium in Brazil by the BBC. She had to overcome countless barriers due to racism and poverty to achieve such an expressive career in Brazilian music. Elza was born in Moça Bonita favela in Rio de Janeiro, became a widow at 21, having to support 4 children working as a cleaning lady. Due to praise from friends and relatives, she didn't give up on an artistic career and got her big break at the end of 1953 on a radio show aimed at amateur performers. Since she was very poor, her outfit consisted of her mother's dress, which was too loose on her body. Her appearance was mocked by the show's host, who laughingly asked Elza, "What planet are you from, my daughter?" What happened next would become one of the most iconic moments in Brazilian television history, and it perfectly captured the spirit that would make her a legend. Elza masterfully shot back. "From the same planet as you, Mr. Ari. From the planet of hunger." This episode illustrates all the prejudice Elza suffered because of her background. Even so, because of her immense talent, even the show's host, Ari Barroso, had to recognize Elza's greatness, who got a perfect score on the show because of her performance. Want to hear the exact song that launched her legendary career? I've got the full story, audio and details on my blog. The link is in the description below. There, a star was born, as Ari Barroso himself stated. With a career spanning more than 6 decades, Elza traversed various musical genres like bossa nova, samba, MPB and jazz. Owner of a powerful and vibrant voice, she could fill a theater without a microphone, had an even greater charm for being slightly hoarse, make her interpretation unique. Additionally, he possessed an enormous vocal range. Initially classified as a mezzo-soprano, her voice evolved over the years to a more metallic and deep timbre, approaching contralto, especially from the late 1980s onward. Among her biggest hits are the songs Se Acaso Você Chegasse, A Carne e Mulher do Fim do Mundo. Elza left an enormous legacy, opening doors for black and poor women in Brazilian music. This is what courage sounds like. But Elza's breakthrough was just the beginning. While she was breaking barriers for black women, another artist was about to shatter the biggest myth in music industry. The issue of racial mixing in Brazil was eternalized in Clara Nunes' voice through her interpretation of the song Canto das Três Raças by Mauro Duarte and Paulo César Pinheiro. She broke the misogynistic myth that women didn't sell records, something common at the time, by selling more than 100,000 copies of a single album. Throughout her career, she sold more than 4 million records, both in Brazil and abroad. Clara Nunes possessed a refined vocal technique and a crystalline voice of extraordinary power, which stood out for its unique ability to connect deeply with Afro-Brazilian roots. Her interpretation masterfully transitioned between the sacred and the popular, which made her not only one of the greatest voices of samba and MPB, but also an authentic bridge between ancestral tradition and Brazilian popular music. Recognition that earned her the title of 90th greatest Brazilian voice by Rolling Stone. she created an opening for other Brazilian artists to make careers in the phonographic industry. And the most incredible thing about this immense success is that it occurred during a period when the lives of artists were not easy at all in Brazil, as many were persecuted by the military dictatorship. Even so, her success was of such proportion that there was enormous commotion with her death. Clara Nunes left us early, passing away at 40, but this didn't diminish her great legacy at all. Her body was mourned at the Portela Samba School court by more than 50,000 people. The singer had an intimate relationship with the Samba School, having recorded songs by various composers from the school. In fact, in homage to the Samba School, she recorded the song Portela na Avenida, one of the most popular sambas in MPB. This is how you turn pain into power. And when I say MPB, it's an acronym of Música Popular Brasileira, or Brazilian Popular Music. While Clara Nunes was conquering hearts with traditional Brazilian songs, a rebellious artist was about to bring something completely different to the table, and the music establishment wasn't ready for her. The 70s marked Brazilian rock because of an iconic singer, Rita Lee. It was the transition period of her career when, after leaving the band Mutantes, the project that launched her musical career, and forming the group Tutti Frutti, with which she managed to consolidate her career and launch herself as an independent artist. Rita Lee possessed a mezzo-soprano voice, with a medium timbre that perfectly balanced highs and lows, characterized by its irreverent and striking sound that consecrated her as the queen of Brazilian rock. Despite initially having a small volume voice, she courageously imposed herself against the high volumes of a rock band's instruments. She also applied a peculiar technique of recording doubled voices, creating the effect of multiple hitas in her songs. Her voice carried a strong personality and unique expression, accompanying lyrics full of irony, rebellion, and an innovative feminine perspective, adapting and innovating throughout her career to become one of the most influential and iconic voices in rock and Brazilian popular music. In the 60s, Brazil experienced a profound cultural division between artists who rejected North American influence and those who embraced it or incorporated it with Brazilian identity, especially in rock. The landmark of this reconciliation happened at the third Festival of Brazilian Popular Music on TV Record, when Gilberto Gil broke the barrier between MPB and rock by inviting a young trio to perform Domingo no Parque. The brothers Arnaldo and Sergio Batista, along with Rita Lee, forming the Mutantes. From that festival on, the Mutantes had a meteoric rise. With their psychedelic, circus-like and sarcastic style, they became an icon of national rock. But success in the Mutantes came with a price that Rita never saw coming. However, the band soon fragmented with Rita Lee's troubled departure. According to Rita Lee himself, she was expelled under the justification that the brothers want to follow a progressive rock line and considered that she wasn't a talented enough instrumentalist. Ironically, while Rita built a huge and successful career, the talented Batista brothers had little prominence after their separation. Rita's first project after the Mutantes was the band Tutti Frutti, with which she recorded the album Fruto Proibido. This is an iconic album in Brazilian music, being considered both a landmark for national rock history and one of the best albums ever produced in Brazil. Rita Lee's participation in the band Tutti Frutti also didn't last long, just 5 years. Rita then opted for a solo career from which countless hits emerged. Her songs are loaded with irony, sarcasm, and social criticism. I recommend the album Fruto Proibido as a way to enter the artistic universe of the Brazilian rock queen, especially the song Ovelha Negra, which is a poetic and biographical portrait of the artist. But here's where the story gets really interesting. As the millennium was ending, two more women were about to prove that Brazilian music has no limits. The first one could play almost every instrument, act and sing, but that wasn't even her most impressive talent. At the end of the 60s and the beginning of the 70s came the emergence of a great singer, Elba Ramalho, whose versatility was her main trademark. Elba Ramalho's voice is recognized for its expressiveness, power, and strong connection with Paraíba culture, especially Forró and repente. Vocally, Elba is classified as mezzo-soprano, presenting a full harmonic and velvet timbre that well balances middle notes with the ability to reach high notes with clarity and emotion. Her vocal technique stands out for her ability to use facial muscles and resonance to project her voice naturally and without excessive effort, which provided a clear voice with good sound emission, especially in her early career years. She manages to transmit intense emotions in a unique theatricality, which manifests in the use of vocal and expressive gestures, creating a strong emotional connection with the audience. Before launching herself as a singer, Elba had another musical experience. She was drummer and singer of the group As Brasas, which changed its field of activity to theater and made Elba expand her artistic experiences. Elba, even becoming an actress, insisted on music, by participating as a singer in various festivals throughout Brazil's northeast region. This is another point that distinguishes Elba Ramalho from other singers. In Brazil, it's not very common for an actress and singer to have such a fame, even considering that such skills are complementary on stage. She achieved national success with her third album, Alegria, in 1982. Elba also had a successful international career, performing shows in Europe, Africa, and Israel. Besides being one of those largely responsible for the propagation of genre like Forró and shot, she also ventured into rock. Her cultural influence with the public was fundamental for the propagation and dissemination of Paraíba culture. Among her career milestones are the sale of more than 10 million records and 2 Latin Grammys. Another Latin Grammy winner and with a meteoric trajectory in Brazilian music is Daniela Mercury. Just like Elba Ramalho, Daniela is versatile on stage. She's a dance teacher, graduated from the Federal University of Bahia, where she specialized in teaching Afro and contemporary dance, besides having also worked as a teacher of jazz, classical ballet, and modern dance. Daniela Mercury's voice is classified as mezzo-soprano, with a medium timbre that combines power and flexibility, a characteristic common to voices like those of Madonna, Beyoncé, and Katy Perry. She possesses a comfortable vocal range that allows her to transition naturally between middle and high notes, adapting well to the vibrant and rhythmic style of Axé music, the genre for which she is known as the Queen of Axé. Her life in music began early at 15, getting on an electric trio for the first time. Created in Bahia in 1950, these are trucks, or allegorical cars, intended for street show presentations. They're very common during Carnival. The beginning of her trajectory was marked by integrating very significant projects. She was vocalist of Banda Eva, an iconic group of the Axé musical genre, through which countless successful artists passed, like Luiz Caldas and Ivete Sangalo. She was also part of Companhia Clique, where besides singing Axé, she also initiated herself in the Samba reggae genre. She also worked as a backup vocalist for the musician Gilberto Gil, with whom she made several partnerships throughout her career. Even having appreciated collective work, Daniela preferred to pursue a solo career and venture into various musical styles. Besides Axé and Samba reggae, Mercury ventured into MPB, Samba, national rock, and frevo. The singer also became an example for the LGBTQIA+ community by speaking openly about being bisexual and fighting for this community's rights. Of all her hits, I recommend the album Balé Mulato, ao vivo, which earned her the Latin Grammy. Besides this album, the singer has countless hits like O Canto da Cidade and Swing da Cor. Here's the truth. Brazil has produced more vocal legends per capita than any other country in the world. These 5 divas I just shared with you, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Each of these women didn't just sing. They broke barriers that seemed unbreakable. They turned pain into power, struggle into strength, and created music that transcends language itself. Now you understand why Brazilian music isn't just about rhythm and melody. It's about resilience, revolution, and the power of human voice to change everything. So here's my challenge for you. Pick one of these artists, listen to their music today, and tell me in the comments which one gave you chills. And if this opened your eyes to Brazilian music, you need to see my video about the top 6 divas of the 21st century. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it.